another episode of Maturity Project. I'm the host, Sir Chad Everett Broshears, or Chad Everett Broshears, whichever some people call the Sir. Alright, well, with that, today's I'm just going to talk about deciding on you. Some of the different sides of the whole concept, because I've realized throughout my life, there's a lot of people that, if you just looked at it from the outside and not realize what's going on, it looked like they're just addicted to motivation, like just constantly going out and finding motivation, but not really accomplishing much with it. They just get motivated, and then it just feels good, almost like its own little opium, if you will. And there's a very good reason for that, and there's a couple of them, but a really good reason from the outside, once you understand, what's behind a lot of these things, is with that, the person may seem like they're addicted to being motivated because they don't have the structures and strategies and foundations necessary to truly implement a solid plan of action that helps them get from wherever they're currently at to wherever they're in their mind getting to, and that emotional value is better than not having it. So it's kind of a drug addiction in its own sense, but it's not compulsory necessarily, but it is something very interesting, because if you don't have the right structures and strategies to be successful when you're out for a specific goal, at least you get the hit of feeling good about it when you're living in the possibility of it getting to become a real thing, and that be the motivation factor. Motivational speeches and speakers, there's a study of this, and there's several of them actually, that's in psychology, where they talk about how motivational speakers are actually incredibly ineffective, because they do get people to feel good, but if you're measuring it by actual life-changing results, or just results that have some degree of life change values, which could be something as simple and small as this, that they now carry over a little bit more money every week because they're able to save a little bit more because of the way they're viewing things, and the way that they've strategized their budget. That would be a degree of success or effectiveness based off of the motivational speakers. So with that being said, sounds like I have a cold because my little guy gets them, and I just can't help but get them myself. I never seem to get them other than that. It's so incredibly rare for me to get sick. So now it seems like, he's got it, I got it. By the way, big shout out to my little guy. He is 2 years old today, and I am looking forward to having a great celebration for the little man. So anyway, all right, back on track. Motivation. That's why it feels good to do those kind of things. But this isn't so much about motivation. It's just when you decide on you, a lot of times you'll have something about motivation associated with that, and it could very well be external, where like somebody speaking to you, or you watching videos or reading books or whatever that inspires you. So with that, I just got a notification from YouTube that got my attention. So deciding on you, it's where you really just say, okay, I'm going to do something, right? Let's say, again, back to the example of saving money. Well, you just decide, I'm going to carry over, a certain percentage is usually a better way of doing it than a specific dollar amount. So a percentage of my paycheck that is considered to be more of the discretionary, or, non-tied down funds. So you can utilize that instead of going out quite as frequently to eat, or buying things that you don't necessarily really need, you just kind of like them, and it could be on the lower consumable end. It's in that world of establishing a specific budget that can help associate change with that. So instead of, no pun intended on change, by the way, but that's what I think by some sort of change that you decided to make, but it has to have something else associated with it. You can't just say, I'm going to save 5% of my paycheck every month, or I'm going to have 5% of my total revenues this entire year. It's typically better you break that down into weekly or paycheck period than it is to necessarily say annually, because annually can kind of develop a lot of minutia around it, and too many murky areas. It's harder to track it. Now, maybe later on, as you become far more proficient at this, you would actually adjust it to an annual basis. But you can still use the annual basis at the end of the year to review what you've actually saved to make sure you're on target, not just that you did it on a monthly basis. But you could also see how much more you could potentially save. See, there's a strategy to it that can make life change. So if you don't understand something specific, and you say, okay, well, I know this is something that people accomplish, like saving money again. I know this is something that people do. And people that make less money than I do have more money in the bank. Again, as an example. Why would they have more money in the bank? And that has to do with the discipline they have around money, and potentially also the way that they view money. And you may have other variables in your life that have called you into spending closer to what you're earning outside of what your bills are, or even in the reoccurring value of bills where you buy a car that you don't really need, or you get too big of a house, you do something that you really aren't necessarily in need of, and then you have to deal with, now my bills are absorbing this much of my actual monthly income, so now I've got this much left, my bills are killing me. The reality is that you made the decisions to accommodate those bills and to learn from that, so that you may not be able to get away from what you currently are going through as far as your financial commitments, but you can plan for the future and stop making those kind of commitments to the level that you have previously. Now, a lot of times we like to live into the future is going to be a certain way because I'm going to earn more money, because I'm going to be better at my job and I'll get more raises, and that kind of concept or that mentality. But that doesn't make adjustments for inflation. There's a lot of things that we don't make adjustments for when it comes to that mindset. Now, again, also with, interestingly enough, last year's debt in an inflating economy is actually a lower debt than it currently would be now if you were to take on that debt, because the value of the dollar, you may be making more, so if you've gotten raises, that debt doesn't grow with inflation, it just sits stagnant. It's just your money gets spent elsewhere because of all the things that are going on in the economy that you still have less money available to you, even though that particular debt hasn't gotten any bigger. It's still a financial obligation the same as it has been, unless it's a specific type of debt that has certain clauses in the contract, like an arm loan or something like that, which adjusts over time. Anyway, I learned a lot about that because arm loans were a big part of the 2008 financial crisis that we had in the United States with real estate. So, all right, back on track here with this. Deciding on you could also be deciding for, let's say, weight loss. Now, when you say, okay, I'm going to lose weight, well, you know that the principles and the basics, right? You can look up calories have values, you look into that. Certain foods have nutritional density, gets a little bit more advanced. Then you can look into, okay, well, it's not just that. How about my stress? And you start getting deeper and deeper as you put more attention on it, and you're allowing yourself to develop. You're building a structure and a foundation to understand what health is as a bigger picture than some sort of thing that you just kind of have, and you learn how you can contribute to your own health. So, losing weight initially, you'll have that real, like, especially if you're not very well conditioned in it or you don't know a whole lot about it. Start reading, and next thing you know, you understand some of the basic principles of weight loss. There are plenty of people that tell you in the very, very superficial phase of it, calorie in, calorie out, create a deficit, don't put as many calories in as it needs to burn going out. Well, when you don't know much about it, you have to learn what that calorie value is, and then you have to learn exactly what activities that you do give a specific quality and a quantitative outcome of certain calories burned, so that you can get the deficit concept and you can start attributing to that, versus just going, I don't know, I eat less food. There's a lot that you really would benefit by understanding when it comes to this, but you start from the superficial level, then you get into that intermediate level, which is, you calorie in, calorie out. But what if you're slipping yourself into starvation? Well, you kind of are in this scenario where you're losing weight, but there's a particular threshold that you start burning muscle, and then what time of the day you do your exercises. Then you go into a little bit more advanced, which is going to be what your hormonal balance is like, cortisol versus melatonin, healing versus movement, what kind of, how often you're in the different neurological system. It's actually the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system, which is part of the autonomic nervous system. And you start getting deeper and deeper to understand that there's a lot of properties and weight loss that the more you know about it, the better off you can, the better off you'll be at the goal of accomplishing weight loss. So when you decide on you have to decide what you want to see, and then you start building the knowledge into a foundation that will get you to that goal. And then you have to create a dynamic knowledge. Over time, your knowledge will become dynamic. Initially, it's not overly dynamic because you're focusing on the areas that you have the capacity to learn. And as you have that capacity to learn, you are fixated in a particular direction. But when something changes, you are very unlikely to pivot properly. You're less likely to pivot, change the direction, basically, or adapt to the immediate stimulus that requires a change in your particular trajectory. Pivoting is to accommodate for that so that you don't fall off track. It's like going around the pole versus running into it. You can continue your destination by just simply veering aside slightly and then getting back on that same direct path. The more you get developed into understanding what you want to accomplish, which is building the foundation, and then the dynamics of critical thinking associated with that foundation. So then you get higher probability of being a success, but you have to pivot and fail over time in order to develop the skill set of pivoting to succeed. There's plenty of lessons you're going to have to learn before you hit success. So this again is all in the maturity project. This is what it teaches you is how to do these things. And you'll hear that repeated type of formula in every area of the maturity project. You'll hear it in 7 other areas. The formula just works overall. You just have to be able to, you have to understand how the formula works, and then you have to learn how to apply the different variables to make it work effectively. So with that, these are the variables that come into play when you're starting to learn how to make real change when you decide on you. First, you have to say, I'm going to change something. And then you go from I'm going to change something to I am understanding how that change occurs. And it's not always going to be the comfort of successful outcome. There's a lot of times that it's going to be the experience of failing. But that's actually part of the successful outcome. You just had a moment that, let's say it's like a workout, simplicity of this, right? You had just went just a little too heavy for what you're currently capable of lifting. Well, the next time you try, because you went just a little too heavy what you're capable of lifting, you're more likely to lift it the next time, so a week later or however many days after that particular workout, you're more likely to lift it because your body's adapting to that stimulus at a heavier level, so it's growing to survive the environment. That's what you're doing with exercise neurologically, and your body's just trying to survive. Same concepts in everything. All aspects of human maturity, all those things are continuously consistent. So, decide on you. First, you have to just have your goal. You'll feel good about it to a degree. You make up your mind you're going to do something specific. Then you want to put a pin in that thing. You want to, it's even easier if you want to use something as simple as a vision board, so you have visual stimulation of accountability on a daily basis. Pin it, and then you start putting a tree of success underneath it, which is all the variables necessary in order for that to become a solidified foundation of behavior so that those changes can occur with effectiveness. So, all right, that's it for today. I will go further over time, but today's really just decide on you, and then the variables necessary that build the foundation so that you have the dynamic ability to pivot through the process. But you need a foundation before you get to that. Otherwise, it's kind of like a figure skater on thin ice. They can still skate beautifully, but as soon as they hit the weakness of the ice where it gives, then they're going to look like an absolute failure. It's going to look horrible, but that's because the foundation wasn't solid enough for them to truly perform. Same in life. So set the goal, then you have to learn how to perform to that goal. Become that figure skater. Watch every single aspect about us as human beings that have gotten us to such heights of benefit, right? Like where we have Olympic athletes and, these amazing famous skaters and baseball players and all of the sports you can think of, soccer, football, across the board, lacrosse, you get into it, right? And then you start learning that these people have failed a lot but they've developed such a skill set because their foundation of conditioning is there, and the foundation of conditioning has rewarded them with a foundation of functionality. And then from that functionality, they have increased to the point that they can dynamically pivot under the new circumstances or their stimulus because their body's so well conditioned for it. But this is true in all aspects, your emotions and your physical body and your community and how you and connect with people and you tie in to your knowledge and how you learn. You specifically learn a very specific way that is typically very unique compared to other people because of the little nuances that help stimulate the desire to learn, and then the ability to retain the information and the frequency that you've done it builds your endurance to be able to continue to do it so long as there's not a brain damaged issue or a challenge to the gray matter that prevents it. So all aspects, you get the benefit from conditioning, but first you have to know you want to do it, then you put in the effort to learn how to do it, and then you build that foundation from what you're learning. Then you learn to start pivoting. And then before you know it, now you're incredibly dynamic and you can still achieve the outcome no matter what the circumstances are thrown at you because you've conditioned yourself so much that every aspect of your abilities to survive in life have now become absolutely, like, just professionally developed in a way that people can acknowledge it and love it and want to understand how to do it themselves. You stand out. You start to become more of an avatar for others in life. You're a place for them to try to become something similar to you, or that in their mind typically is to become you. But as they get closer to that level, they understand that they need to be a unique version of themselves, not you. So anyway, all right. Well, this is it for now. Again, decide on you and then build it up, man. We got a lot of stuff to do. We really have a world to save. But first, we need to save ourselves. And with that, let's develop, let's mature. Maturity's not a bad thing. All right. Again, it's Chad Everett Broshears, or search Chad Everett Broshears for some. And I'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful day. Let's make it a powerful one, will we? Bye.